Hello and welcome to Social Security Posts, where we break down the truth about Social Security, taxes, and the policies that shape your benefits. Today, I'm diving deep into President Trump's so-called One Big Beautiful Bill, which claims the average American family will see $10,000 in benefits. Sounds amazing, right? But there's a lot more to this story, from tax cuts and overtime changes to deep cuts in Medicaid, and even a threat from Elon Musk to challenge lawmakers. This bill is stirring up a storm in Washington. In this video, I'll show you exactly who wins, who loses, and how this bill could change life for seniors and working families across America. By the end, you'll see what's really at stake, and it might surprise you. If you want to stay informed with the facts that matter most to your Social Security and your retirement, please hit that like button and subscribe to Social Security Post. All right, let's get started. Let's begin by understanding exactly what's inside this One Big Beautiful Bill that's grabbing headlines. President Trump and his team claim the typical American family could see about $10,000 in benefits thanks to several tax changes. But what does that really mean? First, the bill would remove taxes on overtime pay and on tips, a big deal for the nearly 90 million Americans who work hourly jobs and depend on overtime or tips to make ends meet. Second, the bill proposes to expand the child tax credit, giving families with children a larger financial break each year. And third, it aims to extend the tax cuts from 2017's Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, making those lower rates permanent. When you put all these together, the White House suggests it could total $10,000 for a family with two children, assuming they earn overtime and tips. But let's be clear, most people will not see $10,000 as a giant check. It's really a combination of tax savings and credits spread throughout the year, and many retirees or fixed income folks will see no benefit at all from the overtime and tip provisions. That's why it's crucial to look beyond the headline. The bill's promises depend on working a lot of overtime, having children, and getting significant tip income. And even then, it's not a guaranteed windfall. Still, for hourly workers, this might offer some relief, especially if their paychecks have been hit hard by inflation. But will that help outweigh other cuts buried in the fine print? That's what we need to explore next. Who really wins and who could lose if this bill passes? Let's break down the numbers. The top 20% of income earners, higher income households making over $200,000 a year, stand to gain the most. They could see an annual boost of around $6,000 on average, thanks to lower tax rates, expanded business deductions, and credits for property owners. Corporations will also be big winners. With their tax rate locked in at 21% permanently, fossil fuel companies stand to gain with fewer environmental restrictions, something Trump promised from day one. But what about everyone else? The poorest 20% of Americans could actually lose money, about $560 per year, because of cuts to Medicaid, SNAP, and other safety net programs. Middle-class families might get a small boost of around $760 a year on average, but that depends on where they live, whether they have kids, and whether they get overtime. This bill is built on the idea of trickle-down economics. The theory that if you give rich people and big companies more money, that money will eventually flow to workers and families through jobs and wage growth. History shows that trickle-down rarely works the way it's promised. Many Social Security recipients, especially seniors on fixed incomes, could feel squeezed if states can't pick up the slack in programs that get cut. The winners are clear: higher income families, corporations, and certain industries. The losers, low-income Americans who rely on critical benefits to survive. That's why this bill is so controversial, because it could widen the gap between the haves and have-nots, even as it offers some financial help on paper. Let's take a closer look at what this bill could do to programs like Medicaid and SNAP. The proposal includes major cuts to Medicaid, a program that supports more than 80 million Americans, including seniors in nursing homes. There are also plans to force states to recover more overpayments from SNAP, the food assistance program. Supporters of the bill say states can handle these responsibilities, but many state budgets are already stretched thin. If states fail to cover the gaps, millions could lose their health insurance or food assistance. That would hit seniors hard, especially those who depend on Medicaid to help cover long-term care costs not paid by Medicare. And it would hit low-income families who already live paycheck to paycheck. Analysts estimate the bottom 20% of Americans could see an average loss of $560 in benefits each year. That might not sound like much in Congress, but for someone on Social Security and a tight budget, that money can mean life-saving prescriptions or a warm meal. When federal support shrinks, hospitals and clinics also struggle because they see fewer patients able to pay. That could mean fewer services or even closures in rural areas. And this bill isn't just a one-time change. It could permanently shift responsibility for these vital programs to the states, making it even harder to restore help if times get tough. That's why many people fear this bill may gut the safety net, creating lasting harm for the most vulnerable people in our society, especially seniors and disabled Americans who count on these programs to stay healthy and independent. One of the most unexpected twists in the debate over this bill came from none other than Elon Musk. The billionaire entrepreneur blasted lawmakers who promised to reduce government spending, but then turned around to support what could become the biggest debt increase in American history. Musk posted on social media that every member of Congress who backed this bill after campaigning on balanced budget should hang their head in shame. He went further, threatening to fund opponents to challenge those lawmakers in their next primary elections if they voted to pass the bill. That's a bold statement from one of the world's richest men, and it sent shockwaves through Washington. Whether you support Musk or not, his words highlight how divided even conservative and business leaders are on this tax plan. Some see it as a reckless giveaway that balloons the debt, while others see it as a necessary investment to help working families. Either way, Musk's warning is a sign that politicians could face a voter backlash or even powerful donors turning against them if they push forward with the bill. For everyday Americans, especially seniors worried about Social Security's future, this is a reminder that even billionaires are worried about runaway spending. And if Elon Musk is willing to spend millions to unseat politicians over this, you can bet there's going to be a fierce fight ahead before this bill ever becomes law. Let's talk about the national debt, because it's one of the biggest hidden costs of this bill. If passed, the big, beautiful bill could add up to $3 trillion to America's debt over the next decade. That's money borrowed today to cover tax cuts and program changes, with interest payments piling up year after year. The Congressional Budget Office predicts those interest payments alone could reach $600 to $700 billion over 10 years. That's money that future generations, our kids and grandkids, will have to repay through higher taxes or by giving up vital services. When politicians talk about helping working families today, they rarely mention how those benefits are put on the nation's credit card. If debt gets too high, the government has less room to pay for Social Security, Medicare, veterans benefits, and other programs in the future. Younger workers could face a weaker safety net and higher tax rates, while infrastructure and schools get less funding. Some people argue it's worth the cost to stimulate growth now, but others see it as stealing from tomorrow to pay for today. Seniors might feel less direct pain in the short term, but their children and grandchildren will almost certainly bear the burden of paying that debt back. That's why it's so important to look at both sides of this plan. It might sound good to have more take-home pay today, but if it comes with trillions in new debt, we should ask whether there's a better way to help working families without leaving the next generation holding the bill. Finally, let's talk about how this bill actually makes its way into law, because the process is critical. As of the making of this video, the bill was being debated in the Senate with a vote expected late at night in a vote-a-rama, where lawmakers vote on a flood of amendments, sometimes with as little as 10 minutes to decide. If the bill passes the Senate, it will move to the House of Representatives. The House often approves Senate-passed bills with few changes, speeding up the process. If the House signs off, the bill would go to President Trump for his signature. The goal, according to insiders, is to have it all done by the 4th of July, giving Republicans a patriotic headline before the summer break. But remember, there could still be changes. Small amendments could dramatically shift how much funding goes to Medicaid, what happens with Social Security's cost of living adjustments, or how quickly tax rules roll out. That's why it's crucial for viewers like you to stay tuned and keep following what's happening. Your voice, your vote, and your comments matter, especially in an election year when politicians are paying close attention. Don't let fancy headlines distract you from the fine print, because it's in those details where your benefits can be protected or taken away. Stay aware, stay engaged, and hold your lawmakers accountable as this bill moves forward. Thanks for watching this breakdown on Social Security Post. We've covered who really benefits from Trump's big, beautiful bill, who might lose, and why even Elon Musk is threatening to challenge lawmakers over its potential costs. Remember, nothing is final until it clears both chambers of Congress and lands on the president's desk, so there's still time for changes. If you want honest, clear updates about Social Security benefits and the programs that keep seniors safe, please hit that like button and subscribe to Social Security Post. And I'd love to hear what you think. Does this bill go too far, or is it the boost working families need? Leave a comment below. We read every one. Until next time, take care of yourselves and your loved ones and stay informed.